Hey guys, and welcome. This is a very special cut from both of our channels, the Burkinator and PopX cast, and maybe even little Joseph Burke Arts in there along the way. But I wanted to be able to record something tonight with my cousin because we do so much cool stuff together. Sometimes we never stop and pause and just kind of like dig deep into our past and why are we motivated to do what we do. And so, Austin, you and I had the most coolest and interesting childhood growing up. I remember so many times going over to my grandmother's house or to my uncle, your dad's house.
My father, yeah.
And Christmas. I mean, how fun was that? Me and you like watching X-Men, playing video games, diving down those rabbit holes together. What is it about you that from that era? Is there any moment or that you can remember? Was there a cool story that you and I got to be able to share together? Was there something that just snaps out at you?
Well, I've always told you you're kind of the thing that kept me going on the comic book lore. Like, and I don't want to make any big heads in here or anything, but I was a massive superhero fan from the start. Joe's passion kind of rubbed off on me. It was a very interesting passion because I watched Joe start collecting all of these things, and you could see what he was doing. Because I remember watching your YouTube channel.
What things are you talking about?
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, see, and now that big collective archive is all just here, and it's all in this one room.
It's in one room,
and it's incredible to be here now and to see this. But I remember, being a huge fan of like Spider-Man and Batman Begins and this and that in the movie world. But then you introduced me to the comic book world and kind of the origin of all of these heroes. And that really got me invested into comics, even on the same level as I was movies. And then, of course, I started to get into movies and started with the YouTube channel and all of this. But my heart and soul really is still with superheroes, and seeing your passion for that when I was super young, and I'm talking like 8 or 9 years old, right? Seeing you at the proper age being this kind of connoisseur of comic books.
That's pretty rad, right?
Dude, I'm telling you, man, you were the guy that really kept me going in terms of where everything come from. So I started to get a passion for that, combined with movies, and that's what really got me invested into this world more so than the movie world. And now I know you had a very interesting relationship with comics and superheroes growing up.
Right. Yeah.
Just to kind of dive into that, what got you hooked in the first place? What was your very first experience with a comic book or a superhero in general?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, my first experience was actually, I want to bump it all the way back to probably 1984. My first exposure to comics in the actual realm of things was Christopher Reeve's Superman. That was probably the first exposure. A couple years later, my dad would always have this habit. Every time he went to the grocery store, he would always bring me back a comic book. It was really fun. It was really interesting. And so he would bring me back these comic books. And I was just like, he was like, what do you think about this one? First one I bought was Donald Duck. He got me a Donald Duck comic book. I still have it somewhere in one of these boxes. But the second one he got me was The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, that just...
You can see it. Just turning it at an angle, seeing all of these Hulks here, man.
Yeah, it did. But
can tell.
It just really kind of spawned something in me. I connected a lot with the character of Bruce Banner. Yeah. I really I was this little wimpy kid growing up. I had my own battles to go through. And we'll save that story for another day, for another video, which I think Austin's already covered that on his channel.
Yeah.
But, it's really awesome. I connected with Banner, being the little nerd, but wanting this behemoth inside of me to just break free and break down walls and do all of that cool stuff. So that was the first thing. It was Christopher Reeve, seeing visually him in the cape for the first time, but reading a comic, smelling the print, smelling the page, seeing the artwork and the bubbles. Man, I was hooked. I was like, what is this? And I was probably 4.5, 5 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I know you also have because you start with comic books, but the Hulk, the original television show, that's what kind of got
Lou
you.
Ferrigno, man.
Dude, that's your forte.
Oh, yeah.
And that entire era. And I'm more of the cartoons, like the X-Men animated show, the Spider-Man, the very first one in the 1990s.
Right.
Batman, the animated series, man.
Love Batman.
Dude, those shows, that was really my childhood before comics. So I wasn't introduced through comics. I was introduced through the medium of animated television, and then you start getting all of these live action movies, right? You get Spider-Man, you get X-Men, you get, like I said, Batman Begins.
Oh, yeah.
And those films bring to light, and we know the movies of old, they're fantastic. The old Batman, the Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, like you said, they're some of the best of all time. But now you have this new era spawning of comic book movies, and we were talking about this last night. Comic book movies are the real deal right now. It is the number one. You look at box office, you look at fan response, you look at critic response on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, push aside some of the movies in the DCEU, but overall, these films are the top, the cream of the crop. So my question for you is, like, how do you feel growing up, like, loving comic books and loving all these superheroes? Now we're in the age of, we're on top, dude. Like, we used to be the nerds, we used to be the geeks, we used to be the outcasts, and now everyone loves what you have always loved. Like, how does that feel as being such a big fan?
The fact now that even the word Doctor Strange is a household word is just like, wow, this really happened. Deadpool is now a household word.
He's an icon.
It's freaking amazing. But, you know, seeing these characters come to life, I think it was you who was telling me about it, this quote that came through today. One of the critics out there for Spider-Man is like, when is this superhero genre going to die?
Oh, my God.
You remember that comment?
Oh, my God.
I don't remember it verbatim, but you were telling me about that in the car today as we was riding around Orlando.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I think he needs a rude awakening because I hate to say it. Well, no, I love to say it. Let me rehash that. I think that superhero films as a genre is at the top of the box office because geek culture as we know it, pop culture as we know it, is actually catering and wanting that hero right now. Because we're living in a society where there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of personal strife in this world today. And what better way to look up to something and try to maybe latch on to a little hope than a superhero? You know, we live vicariously through these storylines that were created almost a century ago. And you think about, you know, what Schuster and Siegel did when they created Superman. I mean, they didn't know. Two guys in an apartment room in the second floor of an apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, decided to come up with Superman. I mean, now he is literally a cultural phenomenon. And when you see that, you just can't help but just, you know, give a little nod to the origins, to where we are, to Henry Cavill, to Christopher Reeve, to everybody, Brandon Rowe, anybody that's embodied the essence of Superman. And I just love it that we're in a society today where we get to see this. We get to see the heroes. Dude, we just had Avengers Endgame. We had all these heroes on the screen at one time. There was a moment in my childhood where I could only... This was the furthest imagination from my... I never pictured that we would have that. But we do. And we do. And we have it at such a high quality, too. It's like all of these films are so consistent. With the outliers, of course. But, Joe, you talked about the OGs in the comic book world, right? Your love for comics is fantastic. But your love for drawing and artwork and creating is also fantastic. So you kind of relate to those artists. What got that passion going? How did you come about discovering your talents as an artist? Well, it's really weird because when I was a kid, my dad it goes back to my dad, dude. He bought me this How to Draw the Marvel Way. I actually have the book right down here. And it was a $14 book in the 80s, and he bought that book for me. And it gave me the fundamentals, like when you think about Jack Kirby, you think about, wow, the washing machine is really loud. No, you think about Jack Kirby, you think about Ditko, you think about Buscema, all these amazing artists, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, all these guys who literally paved the way for what we have today as modern day pop culture art. That was what inspired me. It's like, how do they take these forms? And Jack Kirby was so good about that. Like, I want to do it for you right here on the camera. The hand would come out, and then you would see, like, the rest of the body, but then the positions of the hands were like so foreshadowed that things were happening. It was so cool. And I'm like, how do they get in that forced perspective in a two-dimensional drawing? It's like cinematography in the 2D world. Dude, it screwed my mind. It jacked up with my brain, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, I got to figure out how they're doing this. Because you think of Peter Parker, you know, the leg is in the forefront. The hand is out here. He's doing this. There's also, I'm like, I want to understand the physiology and how that works. Capture that. And I self-taught. everything on my artistic ability.
Well, you 2D and you move into the 3D art, and what you do, I mean, the guy, he took me through his steps, layer after layer, and the time that you spend on this, man, you'll spend hours at a time. I mean, Joe was working on my logo. I got him to help me out with a rebranding. I mean, you can see it right here. The guy just spends so much time, but it's so strategic. And watching the process of a creative person, I always say this, it's so interesting to see, because you can see it all come together, right? You can see the way that you think and the way that things are moving in your head. Do I like this? No, I don't like this. And it's all just so fascinating to me. And watching you work with, and knowing that that's self-taught is one of the coolest things, because...
Was it weird watching it, though?
Or? It was interesting, but it wasn't what I expected, because I expected it to be more of a flowing process, but you're like, no, I don't like this, I like this, I like this. It's like you knew what you wanted to do, but you had to piece everything together to get there. Your mind is so interesting.
You hit on it. Thanks.
And it is.
Well, you hit on it, though, but when... Say, for example, I get a client that contacts me and they want a specific design on a logo. If the client is able to give me enough information and intel on how they want that logo to represent visually, I'll get an image in my mind at the moment. I know exactly what it looks like before I ever do a keystroke on a keyboard.
You just build to it, right?
And I just sat there and I was like, I know exactly. So when I pictured your logo, I pictured kind of the play button. And I pictured the play button in a downward going, but with your turquoise, your signature turquoise color that you like, but with the retro flair.
Yeah.
And I think you wanted the retro flair, and the rest was on me to figure out the rest of it.
You did.
And so I figured it out. I had it in my mind, and I didn't stop until the logo was complete.
No,
so
he's not kidding. He did not stop, man. But
we were up to what, 2 a.m. last night?
We told each other, we're like, okay, we're gonna work on this. We're gonna go to bed at like 11:30
because we needed to get up today to do some stuff.
And we went to sleep at 2:30 because it was just a constant process. But it was so fascinating.
But you were working beside me though.
I was, and I was sitting there editing my videos, man.
And I was editing your logo, and
it was awesome.
Every time you look over, you go, dang.
Dang, baby, let's go. Let's get ready for this.
But, you know, honestly, though, there's many forms and many layers of what I do artistically. My expression to create art is not just limited to two-dimensional form. I love to create graphics like this. I love to create podcasts. I love to draw comic book heroes. I love to make music and compose music. And that's something I don't do as much, but I want to get back to that. But there's so many creative elements to what I do, and I don't limit myself to just one form. And I think it's important for everybody. If you want to draw, that's good, but don't just stop at drawing. Learn photography. Learn perspective. Learn how to get down on the ground in the grass and get the angle that makes it just right when you get that sunset. There's things about it that you learn as you go along the way. And it's always really interesting. I always ask questions to anybody that's a professional in the field. So when I wanted to get into photography, I would ask a guy, so how are you getting that angle with the sun and the perfect flare, but then the forced perspective of the pier or a dock? And he would tell me, and I'm like, I never thought about that. Our first initial reaction, we go out and we take the picture, and we don't even think about it. But there's actually an art to getting the perfect picture. There's an art to actually drawing to scale Spider-Man in a dynamic pose, upside down, swinging through Manhattan. And that's where it is. You can't just limit yourself to one medium.
And that's where you and I think are so similar, because we're both very just visual. Like we went out today and we were both just looking at all of the elements of the place that we were at. Like, that's incredible. That architecture, the way this looks, the color, the scheme, the way our minds work. And I know pretty much everyone watching, it's kind of the same way, because we all have the same passion. It's comic books, it's movies, it's anything artistic, right? Forms of art, they go in all different directions. And the thing that I love about what we do is our worlds are so different, yet they're so similar, and we can come together on a podcast like PopXcast and kind of hit on everything. It's amazing. We can hit on 2D and 3D and art and movies and comic books and superheroes, and that all comes together and it creates a beautiful blend of what pop culture is, right? And so spawning, like turning the wheel a little bit and going into PopXcast, I have a question for you. Where did PopXcast come from? Well, like, how did you get the name? How did the team form? Wow. How did the team form? And where did it come from?
I don't know. All right, so PopXcast. PopXcast, a lot of people don't know this that watch PopX, but I actually did Blue Man Group's official podcast from 2004 to 2010. Roughly 2009, I think, maybe. Time, and so I did that, and it was called Switchback Radio Podcast. And we talked to actors and performers out of makeup. where did you get your musical start? Where did you learn acting? And it was this constant like dynamic of conversation back and forth. Well, when I got out of that, I was also a radio disc jockey. So I DJ'd at WMMT FM Whitesburg 88.7, Whitesburg, Kentucky. You can WMMTFM.org if you want to be specific. You can find it. But I DJ'd there from 2002 to 2009.
Okay.
I had an FCC license, broadcaster license,
Cool.
everything ready to go. And when I moved to Florida, man, it was like that radio station not having that. I loved getting those phone calls on Friday morning. The name of my show was called Crossroads, and it was a diverse intersection of musical genres where I would play Johnny Cash one minute, but Journey the next, and then Blue Man Group at the end of the hour.
That's awesome.
And so, I had all genres incorporated. But when I moved to Florida, that void to broadcast was kind of like,
Yeah.
I tried a radio station, bounceradio.net. I tried that for a while.
Okay.
And it was just the overhead cost to server stream, a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, fast forward, when there was this platform that came out around 2014, 2015, it was called Blab. And Blab created a dynamic where people would get together, kind of like what Get Vocal is today, but I don't want to compare and contrast Get Vocal and Blab. They're along the same intent, but two totally different platforms. And when that came along, I was like, man, I really want to get back into this, but I don't know if I want to do Blue Man Group. I want to do where my heart is. I want to do comics. I want to do something that I know a lot about. That way, when somebody asks me a question about the origins of a certain hero or a certain storyline, I can answer it on a drop of a hat. Oh, you want to talk about Secret Wars? Let's talk about Secret Wars. You want to talk about Secret Invasion? Let's talk about Secret Invasion. So, it's just like one of those things. And so when I was thinking of the title, so the big thing was going, I want to do a pop culture podcast. But you can't call it pop culture podcast or popcast. I was like, well, there's a really cool play on pop. I'm a Gen Xer. You hear what I'm saying? I'm a Gen X.
Yeah.
So I was like, Pop X?
Yeah.
Pop X.
Yeah.
Pop X.
Flows, dude.
Pop X Cast.
Yeah.
So that's how that came to be.
And it's wonderful because we don't just, you think of pop culture, you think, oh, superheroes and this and that, but man, we go deep sometimes. We will talk about our conversations on that show are some of the more, and that's what I love though too. I love a good conversation. Like what I do on YouTube, I do a lot of jump cuts, right? I'll sit down, I'll review a movie. It's a process. It's a process that I love. It's a process that I'm passionate about, and I do because I love it. But our conversations, it kind of gets your mind going. And I find when we have our conversations about the movie that we just watched, like we will about Spider-Man Far From Home very soon, it kind of makes my mind wander. It doesn't change my opinion on the movie, but it gives me more insight. Like your comic book knowledge, what Lindsay always has to say, bringing up wonderful points, and then Mike coming in every now and then and just throwing a bomb on us like, okay, that's awesome.
I didn't think about that.
Didn't think about that. So it's the dynamic of the show that really works super well, man. And that's one reason for me why Pop X Cast is such a special podcast that I think more people should listen to. So get on that.
Pop X Cast.
Pop X Cast. But that's my thing, man. I love watching movies. I love reviewing movies, and I'm doing a certain thing every single time. Like I woke up yesterday and
He doesn't sleep, guys. If you're watching this on his community channel or on his Patreon, let me tell you something. This dude does not freaking sleep. I'm worried about him, but you know what? He's cranking out good content, so sleep, content.
He's like, he's like genuinely, he's like, man, you need some sleep. And I agree with him because like last night I was recording Madison. My wife was literally asleep right behind me on the bed as I was making the review.
Whoa.
She was dead asleep in that video.
When you did the review to what anime?
The anima, the Netflix, she was dead asleep.
Your wife was behind you sleeping when
she can sleep through anything, man. I told her, I'm like, I'm gonna do a review, and she's like, huh.
Alex would be like, no.
That's all the go I need. Just
dude,
that little hand.
That's great.
But that's what you got to do, right? I feel like every vacation I've been on for like the last 2 years, I've recorded 1 or 2 videos. Not to say that I'm where I want to be on YouTube, because I want to be.
Let me pause you in that train of thought.
Okay.
When you're doing all of this for Austin Burke's channel on YouTube, and you have this amazing, you just passed 31,000.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
What is your end all be all? Where do you want to go with this platform and this dynamic group of community that has evolved with your following?
Yeah.
And when I say evolved, within literally 20 minutes from the time he posts a video, he'll have over 400 likes, maybe 60, 70 comments, and he's at one of the top of the lines on YouTube in terms of critic reviews. With all that momentum, where do you want to go?
It's a great question. You know, it started out as a passion. Just love movies, love reviewing them, love talking about them. Like I said, I'm a big comic book guy as well. But it turned into something greater. I think it turned in. So when I graduate college, right, I'm looking for a job, and I want to do something that I'm passionate about, but something that can push me up the ladder, if you will.
Yeah.
But I end up getting a job that I have since scaled down to not low hours part-time, but I am technically now part-time because I'm so passionate about my YouTube channel, and my YouTube is a job. I now have 2 part-time jobs. One is YouTube, one is my actual career as of this moment, even though I want YouTube to be my career. But that's what you have to do, right? You have to, and my ideals come from, I want it to be high quantity, but I want to keep the quality, right? I have, you know how many times I've recorded a review, not been happy about it. I'm still crunched for time because I have something else to do later, but I'm like, you know what? This is not good enough. I didn't flesh my thoughts out correctly. I didn't do what I think people will be happy with. And there are times when I'll put out a review and I'm like, you know what? I think I could have constructed that better, but that's all part of the learning process, right? You have to learn, you have to get better, and then you have to find your niche, right? When I get on YouTube and I start doing theatrical reviews, well, there's hundreds of people that do that. Everyone is doing a movie review. You have to be different. So I get into the Netflix territory and I start doing Netflix things, and I start focusing on streaming and doing, you know, the tier lists, which I will kind of rank movies but place them into categories.
You just did one. You're getting ready to do one, aren't you?
Getting ready to do another one for the MCU, a redo of the MCU, and that is something that not a lot of people. You have to find something that you're passionate about and fits in a subcategory, but it has to be something where not a lot of people, right? You type in Netflix reviews on YouTube, hardly anyone. And I'm talking major critics with 1 million. They could be all over that, but they're not. So I take advantage. And Netflix, they're coming out with more quality content, so it makes my time worth it. Now, every now and then I'll wake up on a Friday and I'll review 2 series where I watch 18 hours of content in the span of 2 days and 2 movies, and the content's not good, so I feel like I wasted my time. But I always get something, a comment or a response from somebody or a subscriber that comes in and says, thank you for reviewing this. Because you reviewed this, I'm either going to watch the show or not going to watch the show. And that's what I love about it, right? That's what I love, because you're reviewing content that people want to watch, but they don't have anything to base it on, because criticism is very important. Not to say they determine how you feel about the movie or the show, but it's important because it gives you an excitement for a film or a reason not to waste your time on it, right? So I want to take that, and I want to keep getting more subscribers on YouTube, of course, and I want to make it my full-time job, but I also want to be a verified movie critic on Rotten Tomatoes. That's kind of the end game.
Verified movie critic on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes, that's kind of
the goal. Is that where you see yourself, like, maybe 5 years from now? Like, you have that official Rotten Tomatoes status.
Yes.
So Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, you can drop on there and give your official review, and Austin Burke's tagged to that.
Yeah, I would love to be on Rotten Tomatoes. I would love to do something for an outlet. I would love to be able to go to because we did the press screening.
Yeah.
But I would love to do a red carpet screening.
A red carpet screening?
Like, that's the goal, man. And it's hard to do.
Out in Los Angeles at the Chinese Theater?
In LA, man. Like, it's hard to think that way because it's such a far thing to me, because I'm like, there's no way I'll get there. But 2 years ago I said, there's no way I'll have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Right? You don't know until you actually get there. And once I hit those marks, it's like you're yearning, and I know you feel the same way.
I do.
I want more. And not a selfish I want more. It's just like I want to build myself, and I want to become more respected. It's all about respect and how people feel about your opinions or what decisions you make here or there. Like, I wanted to rebrand myself, and I get the best guy to do it. And now I feel like, okay, I feel really good right now. I love my logo. I love the way things are going right now.
I kind of like it too.
Dude, I'm so happy with the rebrand, man. But that's the thing. You just keep getting more, and you keep yearning to hit the next step. And I don't know where that's going to take me, but I really hope to become more of a professional as opposed to just some guy on YouTube. I don't want to be just some guy on YouTube. I want to be looked upon as that guy's a critic.
I think you already are.
I
don't think you understand the impact that you have culturally. I mean, I have people that at church that watch you. And it's like, oh, Austin reviewed this today, and they gave a really good time. I think I'm going to go home and watch it.
That's awesome, dude.
I know people right now that I can name drop at least 5 people at church that watch you.
That's awesome.
And they don't even know that you're in town right now.
Really?
It's crazy. It's kind of cool, right?
That's incredible.
So, I think, perseverance, take the good, take the bad, but at the end of the day, keep chugging forward.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll say to his subscribers, particularly, if you have a passion for this kind of stuff, never look back. Because in the back is where your mind will dwell. You got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Mistakes, everything, pushing forward.
Yeah.
Mistakes are just experiences in which we learn what not to do. Okay? So...
that's the thing. We've hit the rocks where we're just like, I don't think we can do this anymore. Like you said, PopX, it was a process to figure out what PopX was going to be. You did this, didn't work. You did this, didn't work. And then you found your team.
Yeah.
Right? And now you run a podcast that I think is...
a well-oiled machine.
It's a machine, man. Every show is just, it moves so well and it flows, and it's the dynamic and the chemistry.
Well, that's not all on me, though. That's the team.
It is the team, man.
It's Lindsay doing stuff. It's Mike doing stuff. It's you in the background. I mean, it's all of us working together for the one thing. And when we all do that, we have a very successful product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. So,
that's pretty good.
That was great, man.
That's a good conversation, right?
That was good. That was really good.
I want to encourage you, though, Austin. Sky's the limit, man. Keep pushing forward and never let anybody say anything negative to you. You got to just drown that out. Let it stick in the white noise, and you keep pushing forward.
I appreciate that.
Because your goals, man, you're going to get there. One day, my cousin Austin's going to be at the red carpet, and he's going to be hanging out with some of the big guys, and it's going to be awesome.
I appreciate
that. And
that.
we'll look back at this date on June the 28th, 2019, and we're going to say, you remember that time we made that video?
Yeah.
Where we were talking, like probably 5 or 10 years ago? Oh, yeah. I remember that. Holy cow. It come true.
Come to fruition.
There you go, man.
Well, the student would not be the student without the teacher. I mean, you're the guy.
Bow to your sensei. Bow to your sensei.
Sorry,
Bow to your...
You're the guy that got me here, man. I mean, your passion for comics and everything in between, and just your artistic merit, and like where you are right now on social media, constantly pumping out, here's a new drawing, here's this, here's that, here's a video. Like, that passion just rubs off. Like, I just love seeing that. That's one of the reasons why I started
really awesome
doing it.
You said that, man. It's good that we were able to have that childhood to where we're going to wrap this up, but we grew up in an environment where we both were just kind of like feeding off each other.
Yeah.
I remember coming over to your house and body slamming you on your bed, you and Josh, and it was just amazing. It was the greatest thing ever because I could do that then. But at the end of the day, you would be chucked off in the room playing N64, some kind of Batman game on the PlayStation. Well, I don't know. We were always doing something that seemed to be relating to either a comic, a superhero, or a good movie.
Always. Yes.
Always.
And we made movies together, right? We would make those videos of us wrestling, and I would put all the graphics to it.
Dude, you have to find those for me. I have to see those. I haven't seen those in like a decade.
Dude, those 6th grade editing skills, they were not the best, but they've gotten better.
They worked.
That was the beginning, though. That was the beginning of a beautiful...
beginning. Yeah, well, one day you'll have your own sizzle reel.
Seriously.
Here's Austin.
Oh, please.
As an 11-year-old.
Burn it,
body
man.
slam.
Burn it. But, dude, I appreciate all of that, man, and I hope to push forward. And we're both just going to keep chucking out content.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us on this retrospective look into the kind of the fuel that drives both of us artistically and being a creative.
Yeah.
You creating an amazing content in your own way, and you have literally in just a small span of time formed a community around what you're doing. And that's nothing to just kind of brush off. You should take a lot of pride in that because blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of nights setting your alarm to 5 a.m. to get up to do this and then pushing that review out before the embargo list. I understand what you've gone through. And the same thing, for me, I've had a lot of struggles. I've had my own battles to fight. But like I said just a few moments ago, I kept pushing forward. I kept pushing myself. And when no one else would teach me, YouTube wouldn't offer the video, I did it myself and I figured out how to do things. So I encourage you guys, if you want to do videos, if you want to create, you want to be a creative, don't just say it, do it.
Oh.
You like that?
That's a deep cut.
Don't just say it, do it.
Do it. I like that.
Well, that's it, man. I think this is a great video. And PopX Cast is getting ready to hit number 100. And as we do that, I want to thank all of the amazing subscribers that listens to PopX Cast on a weekly basis. All of our amazing fans that just look forward to our content, our banter, and us just having some fun together. And you guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. And check out the Burkinator.
And check out Joseph Burke Arts.
It's right there. All right, guys. Take care, and I'll see you next time.